Let's be real. Starting, running, and scaling a coaching business can feel exhausting. I mean, you've got the marketing, the hustling, the selling, all that stuff you didn't realize you would need to master when you decided to start a coaching business. For anything like me, you started your coaching business to change the world, to improve the lives of others while improving your own. Well, the truth is, running a business doesn't have to be as hard as many of us have made it out to seem. And you don't even have to do all that hustling stuff if you don't want to. You really can get into flow, into your zone of genius, and get back to the work you were sent here to do. But you have to ask for help. You have to be willing to work in new ways. You have to be willing to open up your mind to mentors who might be doing it differently than you've ever considered. And you have to be willing to actually implement new ways of thinking and running your business. If you're up for that, stay tuned. I'm Hanna Hermanson, your certified coach, international speaker, author, and yes, the founder of Dream Life is Real Life and the host of this show. And I've been able to help hundreds of coaches build, scale, and enjoy their online businesses. Essentially, make their dream life their real life. And if you'd like help improving your business life and get your coaching business to the next level, we might be able to help you. Head on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com/show to get all the resources and episodes that we talk about in this community. You can join our Facebook community, you can find me on Instagram, but more importantly, if you're really ready to integrate what you learn here today and on other episodes, then you'll be able to set up a complimentary 10-minute chat with my team. Again, at dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, no strings attached. We love getting to know you and seeing what are the right next moves for you. But now let's get on to the show. In this podcast, you'll find the real people, concrete tactics, and weekly motivation and inspiration to make your dream life and business real. I started this podcast to bring you the role models that I never had. We talk to successful entrepreneurs, freedom seekers, business owners, and people living life on their own terms. To be a true leader, to create the legacy you desire, and to live in alignment, you need a tribe lifting you up. And I've made it my mission to be your tribe, to bring them to your ears at least, because after all, we are all in this together. Now, let's cue the music. All right. If you recognize this beautiful face or name, you have been hanging around long enough to know that Silly and I have collaborated on the podcast and, as coach and client before. And Silly is celebrating, 3 or 4 years in full-time in your business?
Well, I'm actually going to be hitting 2 years this month as full-time, but 3 years running my business as a whole. So, yeah.
And we wanted to celebrate and highlight that because there are some really wild statistics when you take a look at how many coaches and entrepreneurs start online businesses and how many keep them, right? So there's a huge attrition rate when it comes to that 2 to 3 year mark. And Silly's been able to ride the waves and really thrive and continue her growth online. And it's been, a year and a half since we started working together. And I wanted to do a little MTV, where are they now? Like a classic 90s kid might do. And kind of paint the picture for folks who are starting out or in that first 3 year period, so that they can be one of the people who make it. So, Silly, if you wouldn't mind telling us where you were 3 years ago when you were working both your corporate role and really starting to, work online. Who were you in 2018?
2017.
2017. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I would say, I know it's already 2021. It's so crazy thinking that 2017 is, 3.5 years ago, roughly is when I started. I would say I was like everyone. I was Googling and I was YouTubing myself to the ground. I was signing up for all the free webinars and doing all of these things to really just get to know what I was getting into when it comes to just running a business online, right? There's so much information and I just didn't know which information was correct, which information actually worked. So I was kind of like puzzling all these things together. And I quickly realized, right, and that's when obviously we ended up working together, but I quickly realized that it's much, much easier to build a business when you are not doing it alone. And I think a lot of times, especially just like as millennials, we're all about figuring it out, like YouTubing and Googling and researching, right? And looking it up. But I just kept thinking, how much farther would I be if I had someone who had been there already, who was several steps ahead of me to show me the ropes, you know? And so I think about that person back then who was clueless, but thought that she could figure it out and was so mistaken. And I think about me now, having known like how important it is to just, if you're going to bet on anyone, it has to be yourself, right? And I bet on myself and I said, hey, I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to invest in a coach because I know if I can just get the foundations and what I need, then I'll be able to do what I need to do and be, you know what I mean? Stop that whole spiraling of just like trial and error and trying to piece all these pieces together. So I would say that's the biggest difference between that girl then and this girl now is just knowing the huge importance of just like not doing things alone. I think that's the biggest thing.
It's so common because there's so many shiny objects and like those 0-calorie brownies of blogs and YouTube videos and free courses and ebooks that it can be really easy to just sit and like gobble them up. Like, oh, this will, I'm willing to invest the time and energy that it might take for trial and error. But you get to a point when that's either exhausting or you just can't afford to wait that much longer without having like the shortcut, which a mentor can provide. So I think it's really resonant. Yeah. So you decided, okay, I think I need to find a mentor. I know I can't just do this on my own anymore. So what was your process of either like choosing a coach or really making that commitment for yourself?
So I did some research. I definitely, I actually, what's really funny, and a lot of people are not going to believe this, but I started following you, and then soon after that actually ended up working with you. So, and the reason for that, and I'll be completely honest, is because when I came to your page and I read a lot of your copy, like a lot of your captions and your content, right? I instantly, I got a full picture of exactly who you were in a very short period of time. And that's really the power of content. I know we've talked about that a lot, but I truly believed that. So in my mind, I was looking at different coaches online. Obviously, like you said, there's so much information out there. So I'm clicking on Instagram, but I started following you. And then soon after that, I remember, I think you posted a story where you said, if you want more information, send me a DM. And we ended up chatting a little bit, but your content alone sold me on you before we got on the call. And so I think it's really important when you're researching or when you're trying to figure out what kind of coach to work with, to look at their content and look at how they communicate, because they could be a really great coach, but if they don't know how to communicate or market themselves, then it's really hard for them to teach you how to market yourself, right? And so I remember thinking wow, this is how I want to be perceived. You know what I mean? I want someone to come on my page and instantly feel like they know what I'm about just by scrolling through my content, just the first few posts. So that was one thing that I say was a really huge thing for me, deciding to work with you.
And that's really great feedback for coaches who are in the market for a coach. If you're looking for someone to work with, do your due diligence and make sure that that's an energy and someone who's, walking the walk and talking the talk. But this is also huge for us as business owners, attracting our own clients, that content really is that tipping point for a lot of our consumers. So I think that's really great advice for both sides of the enrollment process when it comes to finding mentorship. So in that time when you were looking, we got connected. Tell us a little bit about what was happening in your business, where you were at with that.
Yeah, so I had actually so I'm a full-time artist, and I had just started coaching and mentoring other creatives because I would get so many DMs and so many messages of just random questions, whether it was Instagram or just having a style. Like there were so many things that were missing. And I remember thinking those are the things that were missing when I started. And so I started to, mentor and coach other creatives. But the thing is that number one, I was severely undercharging for my expertise. And I can't even believe, sometimes I look back and I'm like, wow, I can't believe that, because and this goes back to, I wasn't confident in really being able to explain what the value of what I was bringing to a potential client. Right. And that tied back to my content, but also just being within, it had to start with within me feeling confident enough, first of all, that I could charge high ticket, right, for the expertise that I had, and also being able to communicate the value of that high ticket price tag, right? So it's not just, oh, this is what coaches charge, so this is what I'm going to charge, right? It really had to be where, how can I communicate the value of what I'll be bringing and the transformation, right? And that was a big, when I think about back then, I was throwing out numbers as far as price goes and just like hoping, like that's, you know what I mean? Like, I guess I could charge,
let's make it work for you.
Like I was like, what's your budget? You know what I mean? And like kind of going that way. And I was just severely undercharging. And there was a point where I even was thinking about just focusing on my art and just leaving the mentoring and the coaching to other people, because I just felt like I just wasn't able to. At the time, it just didn't make sense to me. But then
it can be a lot of time and energy exchange for you to mentor someone. And if there's not that like mutual investment and you guys are both showing up for that transformation instead of just a transaction, right? Where they pick your brain or they get an hour of your time, but there's that mutual investment again.
And that's what I was doing at the time. I was doing those hourly pick my brain things. And that it's really hard to get a transformation from that. You know what I mean? When I think about it now, I'm like, wow, I don't know why I was doing that, but that's why I ended up, working with you, is because I knew that I needed to feel like, first of all, and one of the things that I really loved about you as well with your, just your content, how you communicated, was around like making an impact, right? It's not just about doing the things, right? And just getting clients. Like, what's the point if you're not making an impact and really transforming their lives and helping them get better? And so that really, my mindset has changed immensely since back then, because I wasn't connecting the pieces on what the job of a coach and a mentor actually is, right? And so, it's so different now when I think about it.
So back then we took the pieces of what you knew you could provide and we really put together what is a high ticket package. What can you charge more than $2,000 for that, like you said, is going to actually change someone's life? And then building your confidence and clarity on how to articulate that and not just say like, what do you think about my prices? But like, it's clearly this much and you're going to get way more value than what I'm charging you. So let's talk about where you are now and what you've been able to do with just that initial clarity, but now putting it into action. Where is the business at today?
So I have, and I remember, I think I messaged you because I was so excited because sometimes, and here's the thing also with like going through and learning from a mentor and a coach, it's not so like you can learn strategy and strategy is great, but there also has to be a combination of like strategy and like mindset work. And so for me, my mindset now has a lot to do with, I don't chase clients. I really don't take the time to chase clients because I feel when you're creating the content that's really valuable and that's what I've been doing now. So I'll say now my content is specifically speaks to my ideal customers. And so I have people in my DMs asking me, hey, do you do one-on-one coaching, right? Or, hey, are you do you coach, artists? Do you coach makers? Do you coach, I just started my Etsy shop. So that's the number one thing that I've seen as like clear as like night and day was back then. My content was all over the place, but now I'm so clear on who I'm speaking to that it's okay if some people in my audience don't get it, because then they're not really my ideal customer. So I'm okay with that, right? So that's the number one shift I had, is really now my content is very clear on who I'm trying to attract. And even if I create a post and it only gets a certain number of likes, that doesn't matter if those few likes are the people who are going to be in my DM saying, hey, how can I know more? How can I get, just how can I work with you? And so that's really a big shift. And I think a lot of coaches, if they're, thinking about potentially going into coaching or working with a mentor, right? It's really starting to think that way. Like, how can you be super clear in your ideal customer that you speak to them every single day in your content?
And what are the metrics that you are most concerned about? Would you rather have 300 likes and you're so cute, or 3 people saying, hey, I'm ready to work with you in your DM?
Right. Exactly. So that's definitely the content is the number one clarity. The second thing too around chasing is with high ticket, wouldn't you rather, and it goes back to the same thing, because wouldn't you rather connect and really make deep connections with 4 or 5 people who are your ideal customers, and they are ready to make that investment because they're ready for that transformation, right? Or connect with 100 people who don't know where they're not ready. They don't know what anything is about. And then you're trying to chase all these hundreds of people when you have 4 or 5 connections that you can make, that you can deepen. Right. And those end up being your ideal customers. So that's really the beauty also of believing in high ticket transformations, right? I like to call it's a high ticket transformation, because that's really what it's about, is knowing that there's no time to be chasing all these hundreds of people when you have, 4 or 5 people that you can really deepen relationships with and start to make those transformations right then and there. So that's the second thing that I would say that's been big time for me.
And when you do the math, you're right on. I remember doing this with you. It's okay, what is the monthly income goal? What would be great to add to your current business? And you, like most clients, say somewhere around $10,000 a month would be great to add. Okay, great. Let's break that down. That's less than 5 people every month. Yep. And if you can be building the right content and having a few people come to you each week, those are the numbers that matter and really drive the bottom line for you.
Right. And the thing is that I remember it's so crazy because we're in February already. Oh my goodness. So in December, I think towards the end of December is when I was I was starting to get ready for Q1, right? And I was booking clients for Q1. And that's when I think I messaged you and I said, oh my goodness, because I had 4 back-to-back calls, and 4 out of 4, literally back-to-back, I ended up getting a yes. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have to tell Hanna because it works. And when you can see it happening back to back like that, it really does work. But yes, it's all about, and then it ties back to the whole dream life is real life thing, because then I'm thinking and I'm seeing Hanna on her hammock in Mexico. And I'm like, this is what it means to not be chasing hundreds and hundreds of people, and you can making connections with the people who are really your dream clients. And it's so aligned. And that's the model that I think not only brings the highest transformation for your clients, but also just makes sense for you as a mentor and as a coach, because then energetically you're able to support your clients when there's that high ticket, price tag that's involved as well, because then you're giving, that energy to them. So I'm on. Right. Exactly. Yeah. No more burnout. Yeah. You're creating content that you love. You're not trying to just throw stuff on Instagram every single day because you're chasing numbers,
And I think the other thing that you're speaking to in the longevity of these strategies is that it doesn't matter if the algorithm changes or a platform gives you a timeout or the ad rules change, right? Because what we've built your business on are those foundational principles of building organic relationships. And you could take that on Instagram like you're doing right now, or down the street when the snow thaws, or to the coffee shop, right? The strategies that you've learned and the relationships you've been able to foster online will continue to work because they're not fleeting like the algorithm or ads can be.
Right. And also that that mindset also has shifted the way that I coach my clients as well. Because then I posted the other day and I was saying, most creatives, it's the same thing. It's just like any other industry on Instagram, right? People are chasing followers and chasing numbers, and then they end up burning out because then they're just like, Instagram's not working for me. When really, if you have, and I gave this specific example, I said, if you have 250 people in your audience, 5 of those people could buy $1,000 painting from you. That's $5,000. But then most creatives are busy chasing the next follower and the next follower and the next follower, and not focusing on connections with the people who are already there and deepening those connections. So your content should really be doing that. And you've taught me that, because then I take that and I teach my clients the same thing in this industry, right? Is that it's all about creating content that really deepens relationships and deepens connections. And I love that concept, and I use it all the time, and I think about it all the time, and I dream about it all the time.
Well, and now it's real life, right? But exactly. That really is the hidden secret, in that we can chase shiny objects and find the marketing hack for 2021 and 2022. But when we come back to like relationship building and the mindset of looking for impact and really finding the ways that we can help people transform, these are the coaches that make it, not the coaches with the most followers or the sexiest ad. So Thank you so much for breaking that down. I think it's so powerful to see a living, breathing, creating example of, taking this and implementing it for the long term. So, Silly, where can people see this wonderful content and your artwork and all the great things you are up to?
So you can find me on Instagram at Silly Mugo. And you can also find my website, sillymugoart.com, where you can see some like this art back here and more art like that on the website as well.
Thank you so much. Definitely check her out and continue this conversation. We appreciate you and all of your wisdom and growth. I will be back soon for listeners with another inspiring guest that will help you make your dream life your real life.
That's right, friends. That'll do it for our show today. But remember, if you're really ready to implement and take these ideas into action, then hop on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, and you can access all of the resources we talked about, and more importantly, set up a complimentary 10-minute phone call with my team so that we can help you get clarity and some concrete action steps in place, so this doesn't just become another one of those feel-good moments, but an opportunity to actually make a change in your life and business, because all good things come in action. So we'll see you over there at dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, and next week here on the show.